If Goldilocks were alive and shopping for a Mazda, she would have her work cut out for her. This is the new CX-30. So is it replacing the subcompact CX-3? No. Is it as big as the CX-5? No. Where does it land around the Mazda 3 hatchback? Okay, here is a very helpful graphic presentation to demystify the whole thing. The CX-3 is Mazda's smallest subcompact SUV. The CX-30 is just a little bigger, but not as big as the Mazda 3 hatch. That's next. The Mazda CX-5 is next in line. Let's call this one Mama Bear. The Mazda 6 is next, but since that's a sedan, it's more like a twice-removed cousin Bert from Ohio, so we'll leave that out. The largest crossover, of course, is Big Daddy, the CX-9. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Why they actually did it may not make as much sense, but we'll leave that to the Mazda nickel and dime guys when sales numbers come in. I will say they are not the only ones who've done it though. Hyundai has the Kona and the Venue. Nissan churns out the Rogue Sport and the Kicks. Jeeps unearth both the Compass and the Renegade. When comparing the CX-30 to certain competitors, objectively it is a looker. Subaru's Crosstrek feels more outdoorsy, and Toyota's CHR wants to be a transformer in its next life. The lines on the CX-30 are graceful, but powerful. Overall, they give it an elegant look. But there are things on this that I have to say I'm not crazy about, especially when I line them up with the profile of the previous generation Mazda 3 hatchback. Can we just take a moment of silence to mourn the loss of that car? Okay, silence over. So here, the belt line is pretty high, making this greenhouse very small, especially when you add in this sporty, sort of sloped roof. Now the body cladding, sure, it makes it look rugged, but it also makes the wheel wells look super thick, as well as shortening the body space here. So the proportions are a little bit funky for me. What I will say though is this paint is absolutely gorgeous. It will cost you an extra $600, but man, Mazda gets color. Inside, I've got similar contradictory feelings. I've said this before, no one does interiors in this moderately priced segment like Mazda does. No one. Fit and finishes are upscale, the design is simple, thoughtful, and looks way more expensive than it is. I don't even necessarily mind that the screen is here where it is on the dashboard. At least there is a modicum of integration here. It's also 8.8 inches, which is standard across all trims. That's excellent. Where I start to wander into the dark side here is the interior proportions. The real conundrum for me is the driver's seating position. So when I'm sitting in my preferred position, I have really nice access to both of the armrests, which, yes, are nice and padded. However, because of this high belt line, if I want to put my arm up here, my elbow is actually above my shoulder, which is unbelievably uncomfortable. So I have to raise up the seat, which, yes, for some, they like this elevated seating position. That's great. I personally don't. I feel like I'm sitting on a bunch of phone books, if you know what a phone book is, and then I have no access to the armrest unless I'm leaning here or here. So it's really funky. I will say the rest of the cockpit is very intuitively laid out. There are nice buttons here, a lot of controls that are here, and this dial, the switchgear always feels really nice in a Mazda. It has nice weight to it. But do not get me started on the rear visibility. It is atrocious, unless of course you really like the way that your C-pillars look on the inside. And while it's great that Mazda generously includes safety features such as adaptive cruise control with stop and go, lane departure warning and lane keep assist, blind spot warnings and rear cross traffic alerts only come on the CX-30 Select trim and above. That's a big miss in my book, folks. Heaven bless the rear backup camera. More good things though, interior space is bigger than the postage stamp-sized CX-3. Up front it's generous and the seats are supportive and comfortable. Leatherette, leather, as well as heated seats are options on the higher Select trim level and above. So while there is a little bit more room back here, I'm gonna say like the seating position back here is, again, like up front, not very comfortable. And so I am not going to put Tim back here, mostly for kindness reasons, which of course is the reason why Micah would put Tim back here. So I think what that says is that I am the nicer person on the Kelley Blue Book video team. Right, Tim?
Forever and always.
That's right. Okay, great. That worked. Thanks, guys. There you go. Thanks.
Mikey usually gives me 100.
Yeah, well, I don't make his salary, so just draw a couple zeros on that. Cargo space lands dead even behind the second row with the competition. Now that we've gotten the superficial looks part of the review out of the way, let's talk about what's inside. Well, further inside than the interior. The CX-30 only gets one engine option. That's the Sky Active G. It's a 2.5-liter four-cylinder engine. I only say one, but the premium package gets a cylinder deactivation system that really helps with fuel economy on the all-wheel drive versions of the CX-30. Just because you have Italian sports car visibility in the rear doesn't mean that you have its power up front. So the CX-30 is not going to win any drag races off of the line, and that's because most of its torque doesn't show up until 4,000 RPM. But once you get going, the good thing is that there is adequate power to keep you going until you hit a red light, and then you really should stop. The 6-speed automatic transmission doles out that power evenly and smoothly. You don't feel it working, and it's thankfully not a cacophonous CVT. If you want to make shifts yourself, there are paddle shifters available, but you'll have to spring for the highest premium trim level for those. U-turn happening. Oh. Okay, so that U-turn actually just illustrates my point that the driving dynamics in the Mazda is top-notch. From the handling to the stability to the balance of it. It really, for this segment, you're not going to get any better, especially when you have the iActive all-wheel drive system, which this one has. You know, if you want anything better, you're going to have to move away from crossover and back to, say, the Mazda 3 hatchback. Okay, and now I'm just going to take another moment to mourn the last generation's Mazda 3. God, I miss that thing. Mazda's steering finds the sweet spot between enough weight to make you feel like you're doing something, but has no dead spots in it. Goldilocks approves. As for the rest of the driving experience, the pedals are really nicely positioned, the cabin is quiet. You know, if I were going to shell out $22,000, which is about where the base price starts in the Mazda, it would probably be here. I don't know. The Mazda's tough to beat. Gas mileage numbers sit in the just right spot of the category as well. If you're trying to decide between the CX-3 and the CX-30, keep in mind that the 2019 Mazda CX-3 price starts at $21,435, but the CX-30 is going to give you more room and more power. For the base model CX-30, you get some great standard equipment. In addition to the safety features already mentioned, LED lighting, power windows and door locks, keyless entry, 2 USB ports, Mazda Connect with that 8.8-inch screen, and in-car Wi-Fi are all included. You'll have to move up to the Select trim level, however, to snag Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as 18-inch wheels, dual-zone climate controls, and rear air vents. The preferred trim adds goodies like heated front seats, power seats with lumbar support, and vanity mirror illumination. So vain, Tim. I mean, you look amazing. Power liftgate and sliding glass moonroof, as well as a head-up display and leather seats come in the premium CX-30. Fully loaded, you're looking at more like $29,600 with all-wheel drive. So what would Goldilocks think of Mazda's CX-30? She'd probably really like it. But unfortunately for you, that means that you're just going to have to go out and Goldilocks all of these SUVs for yourself. This Goldilocks personally thinks that the slices of crossover pie are getting a little bit small. So I am going to go off and mourn that and the loss of the Mazda 3 hatchback to the last generation. Ah.